Following the release of X-Men Days of Future Past in 2014, the X-Men film franchise was at its apex. That film not only integrated the casts of the original X-Men trilogy with the talented actors in the prequels, but it had earned the best reviews of the entire series. Most importantly to 20th Century Fox, it had also set a new high mark at the box office, earning just short of $750 million. So it was a no-brainer to make good on the film's post-credits scene and greenlight X-Men Apocalypse. Director Bryan Singer would return, as would writer Simon Kinberg, and all the lead actors from the prequel series. It would also give Singer the chance to work on the third installment of a trilogy, an opportunity he had missed out on with a near franchise-killing failure of X-Men The Last Stand. Bryan Singer, the full cast, and the first on-screen appearance of one of the comic's most iconic villains. The thought amongst fans was, we may have already been burned once by a third X-Men movie, but how could this possibly go wrong again? Welcome to Superhero Cinema Club, an in-depth exploration of the history of superhero films. I'm Mark Schiff, and joining me as always, it's the war, famine, pestilence, and death to my apocalypse. It's Mike Carnes.
Holy crap, I'm all four of those guys, man.
You are.
Dang.
You're like my harem, if you will, like my metaphorical harem. You're just all those things in one, Mike. Yeah.
I don't like that. That's a different connotation.
Harem just means it's an old school word for homies. It's come to take different meanings since then.
Okay. I'm going to take your word for that. I'm not going to fact check that.
Don't fact that check, bro. Today's episode, we are going to be discussing 2016's X-Men Apocalypse, which, like all of the X-Men films, is now available to stream on Disney+. So be sure to check it out before you listen to this episode. Or if you're one of those psychos that's just like, this is my favorite X-Men movie, I've seen it like 20 times, I love X-Men Apocalypse, then you won't need to rewatch it. And good for you, brother. I'm proud of you.
Sure, you weirdo.
Hey, to each their own. We don't shame. So, Mike, speaking of the four horsemen of the apocalypse, watching today's selection kind of got my wheels turning in my head. And I was thinking, Apocalypse comes back after being under a giant pyramid for several thousand years.
Yeah, trapped.
Selects a harem of four horsemen.
Stop saying that.
He chooses Angel, Storm, Psylocke, and Magneto for his four horsemen. So if we were to just go big picture and we could choose any four X-Men characters, good or bad, from any of the X-Men films to be in your four horsemen of the apocalypse to try to bring about the end of the world, who would you pick? I've got my selections. So why don't we do this? You go ahead and lead us off, and I will let you know if I have them or not, and we'll let you go through your full list. And if I do, then, I'll go through mine. How's that sound?
That sounds good. Is the purpose of this exercise world conquest?
It is. It is.
Okay.
So you're selecting for the four mutants who will be the most helpful in your mission to take over the world.
Okay. Number one, my guy, Magneto. Especially if I have the ability to like amplify his powers like Apocalypse does in this movie. Yeah, he's already like a class 5 mutant, as we've discussed. So, I mean, having him, as he says in this movie, like being able to just reach down and move the very earth itself, that's extremely powerful. I think Magneto is basically essential to world domination if you're building a crew for that.
100% agree. Got him in my four horsemen as well. I mean, this guy's got basically godlike powers, let's say. Yeah, got to have Magneto in your crew. Who you got up next?
Number 2, Professor X. The other side of the most powerful mutants on the planet coin is the guy who can literally tap into every single living mind on the planet simultaneously. You could wipe everybody out at once if you wanted to. You could brainwash everybody if you wanted to. You could freeze time for everybody if you wanted to. There's literally nothing he can't do with just these two guys alone on their team. But to that, I think if I'm picking anybody in this universe who has superpowers, though, I think number 3 for me is going to have to be Phoenix. We've got Jean Grey, who's already incredibly overpowered by the Phoenix entity, the cosmic entity. Why not add that to the team here, man? If we're going all powerful people who can just wipe out platoons and full, battalions of armies all at once, sure, she's gonna make the cut, I think. For number 4, I said it in Days of Future Past, like, he was so powerful that they basically had to write him out of the rest of the movie. It's Quicksilver. Like, imagine what you could do with Apocalypse's power to amplify that guy's powers, you know? He's he's probably reaching the Flash types of levels where he's reversing time because he's running so fast. That's a pretty good lineup, I would say, for my 4 horsemen.
Yeah, all right. So you got Magneto, Professor X, the Phoenix, and Quicksilver.
That's right.
I already mentioned I'm agree with you 100% on Magneto. Now, I thought a little more kind of strategically about this, and I do feel like, to your point about Professor X, you got to have a telepath in there. But I'm going with Jean Grey. I would even say pre-Phoenix Jean Grey. I mean, it's kind of semantics perhaps, but telepathy is an extremely powerful ability to have. It's huge. She's not as powerful of a telepath as Professor X, but she does have some telepathic abilities. She also has telekinetic abilities, which he does not have. Just for the wild card, maybe she'll go full Phoenix and just burn everything up, use all that power. Who could say? So I think she's definitely got to be on the list. I tried to think a little more strategically. So for me, you need that person who can pull off the scam that's just clever. And so for me, it's Mystique. She can impersonate any single person on the planet, get into all kinds of rooms and important places, do a little espionage when you need it. I mean, she's somewhat limited when it comes to like the ish hitting the fan, but I think with the support of both Magneto and Jean Grey, she should be okay if it comes to push comes to shove. She's got good capoeira skills.
I think I went a little more brute force than you did.
Yeah,
I'm wiping out everybody just in my path here from a sheer power perspective.
totally. For my 4th, again, just thinking a little more strategically, you got to have some muscle. You got to have someone that's good at hand to hand and can just be kind of a protector. It's Wolverine. He's unkillable. You can't kill Wolverine. Colossus is just more jacked. He's bigger. He's metal. He's really good at being the heavy, but he can be killed. He was killed twice in Days of the Future Past, as a matter of fact. You can't kill Wolverine. So no matter what, you're always going to at least have the one Horseman of the Apocalypse helping you out. So my team is Magneto, Wolverine, Jean Grey, and Mystique. I think these teams are better than any of the teams that we saw in this movie, Mike. That's just me, but
Wolverine definitely was on my list, my short list, and I ended up scratching him for Quicksilver because I kind of felt like, well, if Wolverine's on the team, Apocalypse is probably going to want to just take that healing power for himself and not just have a guy on the team who can heal, you know?
yeah, fair.
Probably not going to like stay as a horseman. He probably would just like become the next vessel.
You may be right. Yeah, you may be right.
It was interesting too. I was like, he's going for the most powerful mutants, he says, but then he goes for Angel right away, like a dude with wings. He's not the most powerful mutant on the planet. Come on.
More on that to come,
Okay,
folks.
cool. All
Just
right.
stick around. Well, let's get into our first category, the Tale of the Cape. X-Men Apocalypse was released on May 27th, 2016 here in the United States. It was the sequel to Days of Future Past, so budget was similar, around 178 million. As I mentioned, Mike, the previous X-Men film grossed just under $750 million. This one only, with air quotes, took in $543.9 million worldwide. So that's still a very impressive figure, but it is a 25% drop off from the previous film. So I'm sure that was kind of disappointing to people at Fox. A lot of the same crew that worked on Days of Future Past came back for this one. That included director Bryan Singer, making his 4th X-Men film at this point. Bryan Singer brought along his regular collaborators, most notably for what we discussed last week, cinematographer Newton Thomas Siegel, and editor slash composer John Ottman. This was edited by Ottman and Michael Lewis Hill, so I don't know what the deal was there exactly. I will say some of those really cool tricks that they pulled off in the previous film that we discussed, none of that kind of panache in this one, just really pretty straight ahead. And honestly, Mike, I think this is kind of a good place to maybe start the discussion of just like, it does not improve on Days of Future Past, I would say, in really any creative way. There's not really the clever use of powers like we saw in the last one and we enjoyed so much. They don't use those cinematography tricks. It's just kind of the same old same with this. It felt to me like a little bit of going through the motions.
This one felt to me like it was becoming a bit more in line with what we had seen with a lot of other Marvel movies up to this point that were subpar. You know, it's like it kind of ends in just this giant CG battle, and there's a lot of just gray color palette to the field because all the explosions and everything cause all this smoke and everything to happen. So it's not very pretty to look at from a cinematography perspective. It definitely kind of reached a point too in the climax where I was like, oh, we're done. Oh, no, there's another 15 minutes of battle left. So
Yeah, I think we discussed in our previous episode that Days of Future Past by original writer Matthew Vaughn was envisioned as the final chapter of a trilogy. Having that comment in my head while watching this, it just really felt like that was hammered home. This would have been much, much better as part two in the X-Men prequel trilogy as opposed to the third chapter, ostensibly the final chapter. I know there's one more movie to come, but it just felt like a letdown after all the creative success of the previous film and just wasn't nearly as good in any respect.
well, the third one's always the worst, right? As or so they say in this movie anyway.
It's funny because that particular line of dialogue, I think, was shots fired at X3.
Uh-huh.
And yet,
Or
this movie also
self-fulfilling prophecy, basically, yeah.
exactly. They thought they were being clever and taking a subliminal at X-Men The Last Stand, but instead it ended up describing their own movie as well. And I think some of the issues I wonder about the story and the script, if it has to do with Bryan Singer, Simon Kinberg, and Bryan Singer bringing in X2 co-writers Michael Dougherty and Dan Harris back to do a story credit. Simon Kinberg once again wrote the screenplay, but a lot of the X-Men movies, it's a bit of a process by committee. It just felt like this was just kind of lacking the juice relative to the last movie, which had Matthew Vaughn and his co-writer with story credit along with Singer and then Kinberg. I think maybe swapping out Matthew Vaughn and him not participating might have been an issue. I'm not totally sure. What are your thoughts there?
I think a lot of it is that this movie lacks a lot of star power. We have no Ian McKellen, no Patrick Stewart, no James Marsden, no Halle Berry, no Hugh Jackman. Sure, he's there for a minute, but instead we get Sophie Turner, cool, and whoever that kid is that played Cyclops, and Oscar Isaac is there, yeah, but he's caked under a ton of makeup, so you don't really know that it's him unless you're looking for him. The cast of this movie is just definitely is part of what leaves something to be desired.
Mike, that is an excellent way to transition into our discussion about the New Mutants that we meet in this movie. So, as you already mentioned, Sophie Turner, famous from Game of Thrones as Sansa, is here as Jean Grey. I think that's actually, like, on paper, excellent casting. Her character, along with Ty Sheridan as Scott Summers and Cyclops, there's just not any character development here, really. You know, you do kind of have the opening scene with Cyclops in class getting his powers for the first time and getting freaked out by it, but that's not really character development. That's like powers development. Longtime comic book readers will have some measure of relationship with this character, but as we've discussed, one of the biggest issues for me around the first couple X-Men films is that Cyclops just isn't nearly as well developed as a character as people like Jean Grey, like Wolverine. Even Storm, to a certain extent, is better developed than Cyclops. So it's not like you're coming in with this wealth of history from the previous version of Cyclops either. I think between those two ostensibly being the center of the team moving forward, it's just all a little underbaked. Now, I will say, Mike, there was a couple bits of casting of younger versions that I did enjoy, and that starts with Cody Smith McPhee as the young Kurt Wagner, aka Nightcrawler. I like this version of the character. I'm not going to say it's better than Alan Cumming, but you know, that kind of innocence, that sort of, you know, good-heartedness, the sweetness about that character, I think came through with him. He has a couple of the better jokes in the movie, like I'm blue. That part was, I thought, a pretty decent joke in a movie that doesn't really have a whole lot of humor.
No, there's hardly anything.
I enjoyed him as a young Nightcrawler. Would I take it you weren't quite as taken as I was?
Yeah, it's just a nothing character. He doesn't really do anything. Even those jokes are just like circumstantial. They don't really land. They're not witty or anything. Okay, yeah, you're blue too. that's the joke. I'm blue. That's not really a setup or a punchline or anything. So I also hate his hair. He looks emo and he looks stupid. So
Wow, hating on the hair. Well, I was hating on the jacket in X2, so I guess we're being a little superficial there. So fair enough. Now we also meet Ben Hardy as Angel in this one, a new version of Angel compared to the one we met in X-Men: The Last Stand. Apparently, he's an American expatriate who's living in Berlin nowadays and getting into cage fights with other mutants for money. Cool.
I don't know, a little bit of callback to like how we are introduced to Wolverine, I think, in X1 with a cage match kind of thing. I was like, all right, that's kind of interesting. Only this time he's fighting other mutants. So it's a little bit more of a level playing field. I did kind of enjoy that. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, he's just a dude with wings. It's not like he's anything special. He can't do anything except fly. Like, why is he so powerful that he can fight in cage matches? I guess the dude who can teleport, like that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. How did he take out Blob? That's my question because it literally cuts to the scene and Blob has been taken out. I would have put all of my money on Blob to win that cage fight if I was in the crowd betting on it. So next up, we meet Alexandra Shipp as young Storm. Another one I liked, Mike. I love that they finally went with the Mohawk look, iconic Storm look from the 80s.
Yes.
I think she really looked like the part of Storm. There's a presence to her. I like that her origin story is integrated into Africa, which is obviously the character's origin story as well. I just wish she had a little more to do. She really is a pretty minor character in this movie. And you'd think, honestly, out of all of the Four Horsemen, right? Like, this is the character that fans know the most. They should have gotten her a little more screen time. That's really my biggest disappointment with Storm in this movie.
I agree. Storm was definitely on my short list for other horseman characters because you think someone who can control the weather, that would be a very powerful horseman to have, but she's pretty underutilized all around. But yeah, she definitely looks the part. She's a good fit for a young Aurora. Not enough for her to do.
She was number 5. She just missed out on making my Four Horsemen. I wanted to briefly mention Jubilee because she's kind of, they're at the X Mansion. Jubilee is a favorite of mine personally, as one of my characters that was in the comics a lot when I was first starting to read X-Men. And I do think that if you're gonna go off to the mall with your mutant friends, Jubilee is the one who's like, let's do it, let's roll.
Yeah.
She's just got that mall teen vibe about her. And I thought Lana Condor did a good job playing that character.
She'll go drain some quarters with you at the arcade for sure.
100%.
Felt more like a cameo to me than anything, though. I was like, oh, there's Jubilee, and then she's gone.
Yeah. She never gets to use her powers or anything. It's
Right.
just, yeah, she's just kind of there. Last but not least, we've got, well, maybe least, I don't know, depending on your feelings about this, Olivia Munn as Psylocke. I will say this, Mike. I really, really liked how comic accurate they made her costume. I feel like Psylocke has a pretty iconic costume in the comics and just always looked so awesome. Her whole ninja look and with the sachet, isn't that what they call it? Or like the waist belt thing
I
that,
think it's just a sash, yeah.
yeah, sash, yeah, hanging down. Like they made her look exactly like the comics. Again, this is a character to me though that's just very underwritten. One of the things that bothered me about the script was there is really no motivation for any of these characters to join Apocalypse beyond he just shows up and he's like, hey, come with me. And they're like, okay.
Right. Yeah.
Obviously, Storm gets powered up from him, even if her hair does become silver, which I would think would kind of maybe not be the look she's going for as a teenager, but nevertheless, we love it. He shows up at Caliban's place. He's just like, oh, what if your sword grew even larger because of
I know.
me? And then she's like, cool, yeah, I'm in. I'm with you. Totally. You got my loyalty. I think you should maybe check into it a little more. What do you think about Olivia Munn as Psylocke?
Not a great performance. Again, kind of underdeveloped character development as we see from pretty much everybody in this movie. Definitely looks comic accurate. I mean, I will say I can owe a great deal of gratitude to Jim Lee for drawing Psylocke the way that he did in the comics as a young man. That definitely resonated with me. Seeing that come to life on the big screen with someone like Olivia Munn, that's great casting on paper. Again, it's one of those things where it's like, on paper this should work, and it just falls flat again. It's not her fault. I think if they had a better script, she may have killed it.
Well, Mike, as far as people falling flat in this movie, I don't think anyone falls any flatter than our big villain in this film, Oscar Isaac as Apocalypse. Mike, this is rough, dog. Really, really rough to me. First off, I have no idea why they cast Oscar Isaac in this role. When you look at the comic books, this is an absolutely massive person. If you were just to have WWE wrestling, take away the powers, just wrestling in a wrestling match, you're putting your money on Apocalypse. Probably Blob in this instance, he
Yeah.
might win. But, Apocalypse, Blob, like, this is a huge, huge guy. And you're getting Oscar Isaac?
I know, it's like should have gotten like Andre the Giant or something, you know. We're gonna take away their weapons.
He's been passed for several decades now, Mike, but I do have a much better casting suggestion. It was right there for them. And now you could say he was already in the middle of a different superhero franchise at the same time, and so that could have like caused audience confusion or something. Dave Bautista is the absolute perfect Apocalypse in my mind. He has a round face, he's ripped as hell, he's strong. You put him in the like metal suit, and he's just looking intimidating to everyone. Even The Rock would work if you wanted to go that route. I even thought maybe the guy, I don't know his name, but the dude that's in the Jack Reacher show,
Yeah.
that's just an absolute rock of a human being. Any of these guys would have been solid choices for one of the strongest, actually physically strongest characters in all of X-Men. Completely baffling. Not going to put the blame on Oscar Isaac. He never had a chance given how poor the casting is.
I'm gonna do you one better.
Okay.
Boban Marjanovic.
Yeah, Boban. Bring in Boban. He was in John Wick.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's huge. Sure. Do it. He's supposed to be physically imposing. And instead you have like Oscar Isaac in high-heeled boots to make him look slightly taller than everyone else. What are we doing here?
He's not physically intimidating for sure, and they do try to like make him bigger in the scene where he's battling the professor in his mind, but he can actually physically do that. So all you have to do is just like cut Oscar Isaac's profile to like expand by 30% on screen with some green screen trickery, and all of a sudden it looks great. But I understand them wanting someone who has like some acting chops, you know, some gravitas to bring into this role for someone who's, you know, he's actually very intelligent as well and very verbose and needs to be convincing to have people join his cause and things like that. So again, on paper, let's get a great, you know, young actor, Oscar Isaac. Everybody loves this guy. He's killing it in everything that he's been in so far. How could this not work? Well, because he's 5'8" or whatever he is. And that doesn't look great on film.
I completely understand your point about hiring an actor of his caliber for movies like this. We talked last week about how Days of Future Past has one of the most stacked casts in terms of Oscar nominated, Oscar winning actors, and it really does help. The problem here is that the character is nothing. He brings nothing to the table. Mike, what are Apocalypse's powers? I'm asking you that sincerely. What are his actual powers?
So if we're going just off the film,
Yes, that's what we're going off of.
he has the ability to amplify other people's powers. He can transfer his consciousness between bodies, but when it's to my understanding that when he does that, he's taking the powers that he had previously acquired into this new body, and then also like that now he has that new person's power too. So he can kind of like steal powers from people, but he also has to steal their body in the process.
Kind of.
That's kind of what I got.
Yeah, that's kind of what you got. That's kind of what I got. But he doesn't actually have the power himself to transfer into other bodies. It seems like a religious ritual that other people have to perform.
Yeah, and there's that weird technology involved with like the gold liquid going through and everything.
We needed a few more scenes to set this character up at the very beginning on what he's all about, what his power set is. He apparently has led to this hugely advanced civilization in ancient Egypt, but people are turning on him to kill him because he's just apparently a false god. We needed another 10 minutes at the beginning of this movie to set up everything. And it might have actually even salvaged the entire film, in my opinion, or at least a good chunk of it, because I never understood exactly what Apocalypse's powers are and never really understood his motivation for wiping out the world. He's completely underwritten as a character. And because of the terrible suit that they put him in and his blue makeup, Oscar Isaac literally had to go to a cooling tent between takes so that he could just cool down because he was so hot the entire time. He couldn't move his neck, so he just has to deliver everything in this completely flat affectation. It's just the design, the costume design is catastrophic to me. It's ugly. It looks fake. I hated literally everything about the costume.
I,
Everything.
I love the idea of like Oscar Isaac decked out in full makeup, delivering his lines. Okay, cut. And then he walks into like a walk-in cooler and just sits down and like chills there for like 5 to 10 minutes before he's ready for his next take.
Seriously. Seriously. It's like,
Reading a book or
it's
something in
the
between.
only good thing. I love that. Because, like, even these fiascos that we've discussed, like Batman and Robin, at least Schwarzenegger kind of looked cool. Like, there were things I liked about his costume. I thought Poison Ivy looked cool, at least. He looks terrible. He's ugly. I'm going to go on record right now and saying, of all the films that we've discussed, this is the worst looking supervillain since Nuclear Man in Superman 4. Okay? Literally, he's the worst looking villain since Nuclear Man. If you're being compared to Nuclear Man, something went horribly wrong with your movie.
It's not great, but I'll tell you what, why don't we pitch this meeting here or this movie? As I was watching this, I was like, you know what? Magneto's story is way more compelling than anybody else's story in this movie, where he's building his family, he's trying to live undercover, and then they find out who he is, and so they come and kill his family and he takes revenge. That's all the most compelling part of like the first, 30 to 40 minutes of this movie. So what if we had like the first 10 to 15 minutes is just Apocalypse living in 3800 BC and gathering his powers, and we get more exposition about what it is he can do and things like that. He gets betrayed, he gets trapped, he gets freed, and meets Magneto first in like his most, darkest time in his life, and is able to manipulate him and bring him on board. And then from there, we spend the rest of the movie through Magneto's eyes, seeing what Apocalypse is doing and what he's capable of, until eventually he kind of decides, like, I'm actually going to betray this guy and be on the side of good because that's still left in me. Something like that. I don't know.
I think that is absolutely genius. And you fixed another issue that I had with this movie, because I agree with you in theory that this is horrible and heartbreaking for Magneto, or at least it would be if we had any sense of who his wife was, of his relationship with his daughter, of why he decided to give up the supervillain life and go be a metal worker in Poland.
Yeah.
If there was another, like I said, an extra 10 minutes to explain Apocalypse, you just cut the Scott Summers early stuff, right?
Yeah. We don't need that.
And then you substitute that with a backstory around Magneto catching him up. He's flipping through like a photo album with his wife being like, remember when I met you and I told you this? And he does some cool metal trick for her in the house. And she's like, don't do that. You might get us caught.
That's great. Yeah.
So we have a sense of who this woman is to him, what his family life means, how it's settled him down, how he's put his past behind him as a result of starting a family and all that. And then Apocalypse shows up immediately after he kills all those guys. And like you said, also, if you're recruiting other mutants, you got Magneto. Number one, they're going to be like, if they're a badass and they want to be a bad boy or whatever,
Yeah.
they see Magneto, they're like, oh, I'm in. Then I could understand being like, I'll sign up right away because that's Magneto. That's my guy. Everyone in the world already knows him. I think we fixed this movie. Maybe we need to do like our own little edit. I'm really excited about AI so that we can just literally reshoot, huge chunks, and so look for our Mike and Mark's cut of X-Men Apocalypse coming in approximately 5 years or so.
By the way, the arrow that kills Magneto's family, what the fuck was that? The most limp ass little shot that ever happened.
And it goes through both of them. Two bodies. two bodies.
It's just
Just
like if
this little impotent arrow.
it's just like farts out at of the guy's bow, basically. It's like really,
All right. Well, it's a good transition into our next category. Best action scene. I don't
yeah,
think that one's going to be making it. The red arrow, as I've dubbed it. Yeah, I mean, there's some cool stuff in that scene. I think Fassbender is really good when he's like, "Why, like, God, is this what you want from me?" You know, it's like
yeah.
he's an amazing actor. Like he can pull that off.
He improv that line too, by the way.
Interesting. We just needed more backstory for me to really feel any emotional stakes at all. I felt nothing watching his family get killed. I thought it was cool that he's using the Nazi coin to kill all the other guys. Like that's his coin of death.
No, no, it was the daughter's necklace that had the picture of the his grandparents.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, it was the necklace. It wasn't the coin. Well, still, pretty cool.
Apparently, the coin does show up though when he destroys Auschwitz. Because I read that the visual effects supervisor or whatever, when he was doing the editing, he saw the coin as like being lifted up. And he was like, "Oh, that's awesome! You got the coin in there."
Nice. Jumping around a little bit with this one today, but that's technically the second action scene that I've got in this movie. The very first one is obviously the personal apocalypse at the very beginning. This is the opening of the film. You get a little exposition, the classic open the X-Men with the Professor X voiceover talking about got to be careful of certain mutants and saying his little dialogue. And then we see the old apocalypse, old man apocalypse, moving his body into two apocalypse because
Oh,
it's the
okay.
second one. Yeah, it's two apocalypse. Well, who knows? He might even have been older than that. This scene's fine. I didn't really think it didn't have the cool action like the first scene from Days of Future Past, where you have all these mutants that are using their powers in conjunction with one another. It doesn't help that we don't know who any of these people are beyond Apocalypse. Literally listed their names to you at the beginning of the film, and you were like, "Oh, I guess that's those characters," but like you don't have any relationship to them. And maybe if you're a hardcore comics reader, but I didn't really know who any of these people are, and there's just not really any stakes to that first scene. It's just pure spectacle for its own sake.
Exactly. The destruction of the pyramid. Well, we can't destroy any other buildings in ancient Egypt on screen. So what do?
Destroy
Let's
the
collapse an entire pyramid. Yeah, why not?
After that, and accepting the short little scene with Magneto killing all the soldiers, we go like an hour in this movie without an action scene. And I have to say, I think the first half is really where I'm struggled the most with this movie. I do think it kind of picks up around the midway point. Once they essentially get to the part where Apocalypse is sending off the nukes, from there on, it moves a little better. But man, it is just so slow. There's just kind of a lot of blah, blah, blah. And finally, we get to what I'm dubbing the explosion. This is the second Quicksilver
I hate you
focused
sometimes.
the second Quicksilver focused action scene in the last two movies. It's sick. What can you say? I mean, Quicksilver saving all these people in slow motion with the musical montage is always going to be sick. There is definitely a sense of diminishing returns because I know we discussed in the last episode when we all came out of the theaters from Days of Future Past, it was like, oh my God, that Quicksilver scene was incredible. I've never seen anything like it. And so then they're literally just going back to the well for this one. There's still some cool moments that it kind of follows that same format of like he's doing everything, he's setting all these things up, and then they all spring into action when time unfreezes and people fall into the sheets. The kids in the mattress hit the tree and roll to safety. The dog's got the pizza. Definitely diminishing returns on the first one, but I did think this was a good action scene overall.
I don't know. It kind of feels like they're trying to capture the same lightning in a bottle, and you can't do that. It's like let's just do it again and make it bigger. Okay, but it's not the same. It's not as good. And maybe it's watching it, 10 years later on my 4K TV at home, but man, CGI in this scene looked bad, I thought. A
Wow.
lot. It looked really cartoony. Quicksilver just looks like he's standing in front of green screens the entire time. To me, anyway. I don't know, man. Like that's how I felt watching it at home. Like I said, it's been 10 years, so CG doesn't always age the best in those kind of situations. But I did like there's a couple shots where it's like POV, cameras rigged but facing back towards Quicksilver, or like the dog holding the pizza in his mouth. I was like, that's kind of clever. And
Nicholas Holt, when he saves Beast,
yeah,
that very first rescue is like that. And they did a good job with those shots. Yeah, it's far more elaborate than just the one room, right? He's racing all over the house. There's an explosion that's going on, that all that's filmed in slow motion. So yeah, the CGI was maybe a little shakier than the previous version, but overall I still found this to be pretty enjoyable. Our next big action scene, Weapon Escape, because he's
stop it.
Weapon X and he escapes.
Smack you virtually.
Never gonna stop. Yeah, this is Wolverine getting out of his cage. I was kind of struggling for the proper noun. I think it's a cage.
It's like where they keep the velociraptors in Jurassic Park, basically.
Yeah, basically. Gets out, goes crazy, kills a bunch of guys, gets free thanks to Jean Grey. Thought it was sick. Another one that I thought was real sick.
It, again, just kind of reinforced my point from Future Past, though, where at the end of that movie, it should have just been Stryker that takes him, because that would have led perfectly into this cameo rather than have it maybe be Mystique that rescues him. That doesn't make any sense. It would have just made sense from a continuity perspective to just keep it going and have it be Stryker, and then boom, here he is. He's in the base. We know exactly why he's there.
At some indeterminate point in between the movies, he still gets captured by Stryker.
Why? Let's just leave it where we saw him get captured. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, you're totally right. That's definitely a fix that should have gone through, but they didn't ask us, unfortunately. And then finally, the big, extremely long climax that you alluded to. I'm calling this one, Mike, the 10 million dead pyramid, because there's $10,000 pyramid, but as an old game show, this is the 10 million dead pyramid.
I think you're dating yourself. Sorry, bro.
We are going to talk about this long ass scenes. There's a bunch of different moments. You get Angel making the very first attack on the X-Men, then Storm and Psylocke taking on Jean Grey, Cyclops, and Beast. Nightcrawler versus Angel for a little while. I will give Nightcrawler some credit. Getting everybody safely into the plane. Enjoyed that. Thought it was cool. Another good use of Nightcrawler's powers that are kind of underrated, I think, in our overall estimation of how valuable that guy is. And then that doesn't work. The plane goes down, kills Angel, but Apocalypse still doing his thing, gets into a psychic fight with Charles. I did also like the Quicksilver beating on Apocalypse real quickly. That was a fun slow-mo scene for me. I did enjoy that.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you have to appreciate this, Mike. In all of the previous films, Magneto pulls a double cross on the X-Men. In this one, he pulls his double cross on Apocalypse and goes hero. Kind of appreciated that. I thought that was kind of a nice inversion of his character arc in all the previous X-Men films. And of course, Magneto, Cyclops, Jean Grey, and eventually even Storm join powers together to defeat our villain. So among all of these action sequences in X-Men Apocalypse, which one was your favorite, Mike?
I'll go with the finale. There's a lot in there that, even though it is kind of long and drawn out and tedious through a lot of the way, there's a lot in there that I thought was pretty cool. I liked when they crashed the Blackbird. Nightcrawler teleports the whole team out of there and it kills Angel, like you said. The shot of them, like the plane going straight down into the earth, was pretty harrowing. And then you get that shot of Nightcrawler like taking everybody, and you see like the slow motion teleport, basically, like it goes through space. And I thought that was really clever. I like seeing Magneto creating a giant magnetic field around the pyramid, seeing what he's capable of. Yeah, and I thought the psychic battle between Apocalypse and Charles was pretty cool. Like I said, he gets big like he does in the comics. And that scene, even though it's only happened psychically, Charles giving him the well, you're in my house now. I thought that was kind of cool. Nice little twist in the dialogue. I don't know. I think the finale, I would say, is probably worth sticking around for. If it's a ringing endorsement, I know.
I was about to say, just settle down, buddy. Wow, high praise. For me, it's the Weapon X escape. I actually thought this was a really cool scene. I feel like this is how you should do cameos in superhero movies. It was organically built into the location that they were at. So you're kind of in your mind thinking like, okay, this is Weapon X facility. It's also maybe, oh yeah, this is like 1980s. This would have been around the time that he was in the Weapon X program. the whole, is that an animal? What is that? It really actually reminded me a lot of the Darth Vader scene at the end of Rogue One, where it's like, oh, something is coming. I don't know why you hate on that scene, Mike. I don't know why. That's such a
It's
good scene.
pointless.
Anyway, just the sheer terror that everyone has when he gets loose, and then just the fury with which he just lays waste to everybody. I mean, we don't actually get that much Wolverine going insane on people in any of the X-Men movies. It's a little here and there, but these are PG-13 movies. This is about as violent as you're going to get a Wolverine scene in a PG-13 X-Men movie. And I loved it. I loved watching him go to town. I love the comic accurate Weapon X headgear as well as the facial hair. I thought he looked super cool. And it was more than just like a really quick cameo of like, oh, he's in that. We flash to him inside there, or what they did in First Class, where it's kind of a joke. It was a pretty meaty scene, and I really enjoyed it. I thought that was, for me, probably the standout action sequence.
They did a really good job at hiding that he was going to be in it too. I don't think there was any leaks or press or anything about Hugh Jackman going to be in the movie. I can definitely see that as the crowd stands up and applauds, in gleeful surprise when they see that happen.
Our next category is Best Non-Action Scene. Not a whole lot going on here. Not a lot for me. I'm just going to give a couple shout outs. So, Apocalypse sending off all the nukes is sick. That is a really awesome moment. I love how the soundtrack switches to that Beethoven song. It's a little bit of the callback to the Nightcrawler scene, the classical music, his whole monologue. It's kind of nonsensical to a certain extent, but it's also just the score is doing some heavy work there in terms of the terror. You get your Stan Lee and his wife, his actual wife as well,
Madam
who
Web.
passed away sadly, the next year. That's a nice little cameo, little touchstone. And the fact that 2 Charles is kind of being taken over. No one really knows what's going on. He says, Hank, destroy, wreak havoc, and that was maybe a little on the nose, that line, but still, like, gotta shut it down. That was a cool scene.
That's your pick?
Yeah, that's my pick. I'll give an honorable mention to the very ending. Mike, this really embodies in a lot of way my frustration to the movie. The very last scene, which is very brief, you get Mystique in classic Mystique outfit, talking to all of the young X-Men in their classic outfits, and then these Sentinels come in, movie's over. That's it. There's like 2 shots of them looking incredible in all of their comic accurate outfit, and then they just bail. What are we doing? If anything, right? Just since we're rewriting the movie on the fly here, you put that in the movie when Magneto and like recruiting, you're doing this, you have this long intro with all of that, and then you go to the X Mansion, and that team's in the danger room practicing in their cool outfits, going against the Sentinels. You get an actual action scene with that. Would have been amazing. I would have loved that. It's so frustrating that they finally deliver. Oh, look, Scott Summers. He's in the actual yellow and blue suit that all the fans have been clamoring for. And it's literally 1 shot and they're out. So frustrating. Those are my picks. What do you got? Anything?
I think just for Fassbender's acting, the scenes where he's spending time with his family dies, he takes revenge, and then he goes back to the plant and is like trying to confront everybody else for hunting him down. He's easily the best actor in these movies, this revamped prequel trilogy. And I just always appreciate watching him do what he does. And if he's improvising great lines about why characters are screaming at God or what have you, he's just a joy to watch. So I'm going to go with that.
Well, our next category is secret layers and costuming. Let's start with the costuming, if I may, Mike, because
go ahead.
it segues from my last point. I did want to ask you this. Okay, so this movie is set in the 1980s. Each one of the prequel movies moves up a decade. So now we're in 1983. Who had the best 80s look in the movie? And I'll give you 4 options, Mike. Professor X. He's got the pastel purple t-shirt with the gray blazer and super big shoulder pads, the long wavy hair.
He looks like Knight Rider.
You've got Nightcrawler with the Michael Jackson Thriller outfit when they're up at Alkaline Lake.
Alkali.
When they're alkaline.
There's no extra N at the end of that word. We went over this last time.
It's not my alkali, Mike. I think you're lying about the pronunciation. Jean Grey also looking amazing in those scenes. She's got the striped shirt and turquoise blazer with the shoulder pads as well, which were so popular in the 80s. And finally, I already shouted her out, but my girl, comic accurate Jubilee, yellow raincoat, boots, looking very 80s chic in those. Of those four looks with a W and a K, who are you picking?
Nightcrawler thriller outfit. It gave me a good chuckle to see him come back from the mall and realize that's what he decided to pick out from the mall. Yeah, I just think that the red thriller jacket looked really good on him, and fit the time frame and let us know what he was all about.
For me, I'm going with Professor X. People at home can't see this, but this has been my fashion style for a while. The pastel colored t shirt with the huge shoulder pad blazer. I just think it's a timeless look. A lot of people think I'm stuck in the 80s, but for me, it's an evergreen look. I'll continue to wear it the rest of my life, and I'm glad to see some representation on screen. Charles Xavier, you are looking real fly, my friend.
Should we tell the listeners how your entire decorum in the living room behind you is Miami Vice?
We'll save that for our behind the scenes episode coming down the line
Okay.
eventually. Yeah. The other one I wanted to shout out, I already kind of mentioned it, but Psylocke looks amazing. And I also will say it's not exactly like a costume thing, but one of the things I did appreciate about this, we get an origin story behind Professor X's iconic bald head. He lost all of his hair when Apocalypse was attempting to transfer his body. That's why he's bald. You're kind of wondering, how does this amazing hairdo with all of his beautiful locks, how's he going to go bald? That man is not someone that's into early onset balding or anything. Apparently, he lost his hair that way, so that's cool.
Stupid. I don't need an origin to how he lost his hair. Just give him alopecia. It's fine.
I thought it was great personally, and McAvoy also actually shaved his real head at the end.
Yeah, he shaved it
Apparently,
for First Class too, and then they were like, "No, we don't need you to do that." So he actually wears a wig for a lot of that movie.
that's funny. The other origin story we get, Mike, is for the lame black suits that everyone hates that they wear. Oh wow, it turns out, oh cool, we've got some gear here next to the plane that we can all change clothes into. Just happens to fit every one of our members exactly to their specifications.
Boo! That's so stupid.
Boo. I definitely will agree with that. I already talked about Apocalypse, just hate everything about how he looks. I know that Apocalypse kind of had the tube thing going in his early incarnation, but really since they've kind of got rid of that and has just got a bald head and kind of almost like a weird Joker type smile. They should have just gone with that. It just got Dave Bautista. He was right there. He was right there. Kills me, Mike. As far as secret layers, in theory, this pyramid is an awesome secret layer. Should be really cool. Got no sense of that space. The camera in this movie is constantly zooming into all kinds of different places. It's a thing that Singer did a lot in the last X-Men movie too, and we loved it in that movie.
Yeah.
And this one, it's just like, oh, cool. Look, the camera's going down to the bottom of the ocean into some blurry stuff you can't barely make out, and he's like pulling it up. Give us a tour around this sick pyramid. All we really see is this big statue of Apocalypse. The tables where he's going to transfer his consciousness. Like, I wanted to see what that pyramid was like more about. I thought it was extremely frustrating.
I agree. Not enough done in that set piece. I don't know. Maybe they didn't have the budget to create an actual bigger set for them to walk around on. Who knows? Yeah, I mean, it's amazing that he's just creating this giant mega pyramid out of the surrounding Cairo area, and all its building blocks that lie in the structures that are already there. Again, just another thing that's just like, on paper this is awesome, but you don't execute when you show it visually, and it just makes it lame.
You're doing a great job setting up the segues for us on this episode, because our next category
There we go.
is total destruction. And Mike, I took exhaustive notes. This is hands down the most bloody and violent X-Men movie we've had so far by orders of magnitude. We talked in Days of Future Past. You see multiple X-Men die at multiple times even, but in actual deaths, there's like maybe 4, I think we said, maybe 10 or a dozen, somewhere around there, but the body count is really low. In this one, the opening scene alone has 16 people get killed right away. So you have the 2 guards at the temple door who are turned into skeletons, 9 get burned up in flames, 1 gets twisted like a pretzel. That one was pretty cool. The four horsemen die. Old Apocalypse dies. That's 16 people before we're 10 minutes into the movie. Next up, you have the six worshippers in the tomb that bring Apocalypse back to life. Somehow Moira McTaggart escapes, but that's six more. Then you have Magneto's wife and daughter. Then 10 soldiers, I counted, in his revenge killings. So now we're up to a dozen there. When Apocalypse first meets Storm in Cairo, he
Yeah.
beheads three guys and absorbs a fourth dude into a wall. Four in that scene.
That was pretty cool. I thought that scene. He just does this all with like sand, basically. Decapitates them with sand.
It was pretty cool. Next up, Magneto is making threats to these workers at the metal factory, and Apocalypse just sinks them into the floor immediately. That's seven of them. Alex gets killed in the explosion, so that's eight now between those two scenes. Now, Mike, the real bloodiest scene, my favorite action scene of the movie, Wolverine going to town. I got three guards killed as soon as the Weapon X cage opens. You got seven guys in the first hall, 13 in the hall with the cameras, four in the next hall, and then at least four in the command center. That's 31 deaths right there alone. Now we get into the real meat of this death sandwich here. Again, I did my research on this, Mike.
I can tell you're doing great.
The population of Cairo, Egypt in 1983 was around 7.5 million people. Based on what we're seeing in that scene, and there are no survivors. If you notice, when they are fighting, there's not anyone that's like fleeing. They're all gone. I'm thinking 5 million. Five of the 7.5 million died. That's kind of surrounding suburban areas too, but I'm assuming he's going to need all that stuff. I mean, thinking 5 million there.
I think that's estimating high. I would go maybe 1 to 2 million
Out of
personally.
7.5 million, given all that wide scale destruction?
I think a lot of people, can flee and get out of those situations a little bit. I
Okay.
don't know.
All right.
Let's split the difference. Let's call it 3.5. Go right in the middle there. Of the
3.5.
seven.
Okay. All right. Next, we've got the magnetic fields. They are stretching, we know for sure, based on scenes in this movie, from the Sydney Opera House in Australia to the Brooklyn Bridge in New York. I think that's the Brooklyn Bridge. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's a New York bridge if it's not the Brooklyn Bridge. Basically, you can assume this is all across the globe, right? Like this, there's no place is spared.
Yeah, it's worldwide.
The population on planet Earth in the year of 1983 was 4.7 billion people, Mike. You got to assume that it's going to be a lot worse in urban environments where there's buildings being pulled apart that are metal. 1.89 billion people in urban environments in 1983. So my estimation here is that roughly 10% of people living in urban populations were killed. That would put that number at 190 million people. Does that feel about right? 1 in 10? I mean, I got to assume if you're living in a city, you had a 1 in 10 chance while everything is getting pulled apart.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think you missed something though.
What's that?
And this is going to go back to our pluribus conversation.
Airplanes in the sky?
Apocalypse forces Professor X to make contact with every living soul on the planet and deliver a pretty intimidating message, right? You got to figure there's like people piloting planes, old people driving cars, not seeing what's around them or whatever. Like, wow, what's happening? There's a crazy voice in my head. Oh no, I'm crashing the car. Like, you got to figure there's something like that happening too, right?
Sure. What you want to tack on a couple mil?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Okay, all right. We're going with 3 million in Cairo, 2 million in the psychic attack, 190 million in urban areas. Now, in rural areas, I think it's going to be less, but there's still going to be, let's say, 1 in 100 in rural areas. So we are looking at a total death count here, Mike, of around 250 million people in X-Men Apocalypse. And that's with them saving the day. Now, if you noticed, at one point,
We did it.
hooray, X-Men! One of the generals says billions will die. He says billions.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Relatively speaking, they actually saved the lives of, let's go with 1.75 billion people. Okay, good job. You still had 250 million people die in this movie. I will be shocked if there's another superhero film that reaches this death toll. I don't know if I hope that I'm wrong.
I only know of one other one that will, but yeah.
Okay, well, we'll save it for that episode, but unbelievable orders of death and magnitude. And Mike, again, just counting the people on screen, not the hypothetical numbers that I ran that we agree on, 79 people are killed on screen in X-Men Apocalypse. 79. This is pretty dark, pretty rough.
I think this is our highest death toll to date.
It's not even close. Yeah, it's by far. Next category, evil scheme. Kind of touched on this earlier, but he says to Magneto, "We will wipe clean this world and we will lead those who survive into a better one." What does that mean?
I don't know, but at least when he wipes clean. That's all I can say.
He wipes clean. He literally wipes clean everything built after the Bronze Age. That's what one of those generals says. He says, "We're looking at everything that's been built since the Bronze Age will be completely wiped out." Okay.
That's a great specification, General. Quit trying to sound like you have a college degree.
I don't think this is a good scheme at all. I don't like this scheme. I don't feel like there's really any specific goal here. It's just destroy everything and let me be the leader.
Yeah, just conquest. Yeah, just I'm gonna tear everything down and rebuild in my image. We've seen that. That's like the ultimate supervillain plot. Like this is what they're a lot of them are reduced to.
Yeah, that's the thing. Reduced. Good villains should have complexities, should have nuance, should have motivation. It's just like, yeah, I'm just gonna kill everything and build a new world. Cool story, bro. All right, this is gonna be tough. Our next couple categories, I think, because I think people have probably discerned where we're coming from so far on this movie, but you got to identify our best and worst mutants here, Mike.
Sophie
So I'll
Turner,
go.
worst mutant.
Whoa! Immediately, you don't even let me set you up.
I've been waiting to say it.
Go on.
She's the worst actor by far in this movie, man. She's so boring. Everything that she says is so monotone and flat. I was just watching her and I was like, nope, she gets the award for worst mutant just purely on her acting chops. Yay, Sophie Turner.
It's tough for her. Loved her in Game of Thrones. I just haven't really connected to her as an actress since. Anytime I see her, I'm just kind of like, you were Sansa. Like, that's a difficult character to get out from the shadow from. But we literally were praising just our last episode, her co star, Peter Dinklage, for giving a completely different performance from Tyrion Lannister. Very versatile, talented actor. Really good job in Days of Future Past. It's rough. However, my worst mutant award is going to go to Archangel. For the reasons you have mentioned, Archangel, what are you bringing to the table? Cool, you can fly. You can shoot spikes out of your metal wings. You literally get trapped in the monkey bars, bro. You get trapped inside basically monkey bars. And you're like, oh no, what can I do? He finally does get out of there. One of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. Give me a break. He didn't even beat Nightcrawler one on one in a cage match. And this is going to be one of the guys that ushers in the end of the world. I'm sorry, Archangel. Who's your best mutant?
You know, I struggle to find one because, like we talked about, there's not a lot in this movie of like, oh, that was really cool when this guy combined his powers here. X2 had like Nightcrawler kind of stealing the show just with the powers that he had because he like had that amazing opening set piece. He randomly, like, you don't even expect it when he teleports and saves Rogue's life and brings her back onto the crashing plane. Like that scene's amazing. Like there's nothing like that other than maybe Quicksilver's scene that really stands out as an impressive use of someone's powers. I know I gave it to Sophie Turner because she's a bad actor, so there's not really like a great acting performance other than Fassbender, and I already kind of sung his praises a bit. So I struggle to find who's the best mutant in this movie. I don't know, maybe
Fassbender by default.
Magneto again. Yeah, I'll give it to him 4 times in a row. I don't care.
Man, you're just giving Magneto this award. This is the Magneto Award for Best Mutant, apparently. I agree with you, Mike. I struggled. I'm like, who really stands out in this movie? It's rough, man. There's not really a standout character. And if I had to pick, I'm going with Professor X. The reason why is first two prequel movies, he's definitely not the Charles Xavier we know. You know, the first one, he's kind of trying to be a ladies' man and telling everyone they're so groovy. In the second one, he's an addict, basically, and the whole film is about his redemption arc and him finding himself and finding his path as the mentor to these young mutants. So it's really nice to finally see James McAvoy have a chance to kind of play the traditional Professor X that we know from the comics. He's kind, he's selfless, he's compassionate, he's moral, and as I mentioned, he has incredible style. 80s, today, whenever, he looks amazing. He did look super cool in that classic Professor X blue suit, bald head in the very last shot too.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give it to Professor X, but it is somewhat by default.
It sounds like your best mutant is Professor X's wardrobe.
it's around there, you know. I've given it to him a couple times. Yeah, I go with the hero, you go with the villain, and I don't know what that says about us, but there it is.
We could take that back to the first episode. I'm the Magneto to your Professor X.
That is true. I set up the entire thing this way.
You did this to me.
And now it's time for everyone's favorite category. I've got questions.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions, and I want to have them answered immediately.
Questions. Questions that need answering.
Too many questions. There's too many questions. There's just too many. I'll ask the questions.
All right, this is the part of the show where we talk about things that just kind of left us with a few questions. And if I may, I'm just going to kick us off with Nightcrawler. So you're fighting Archangel. Why don't you just teleport right outside the cage immediately?
You took mine. Yep. That's exactly what I had too.
Yeah, you literally do that when Mystique pulls a fire alarm or whatever and everything goes into panic. Just teleport out of the ring and don't fight him and you're good. And then teleport outside. Like, it's 2 teleportations. You're out of that horrible situation. Much less, how'd they get you in that box?
Yeah, for sure.
What's going on in that box? How'd you even get trapped in a box? You're a Nightcrawler. You literally can get out of any box they put you in. What's going on here?
Not only that, did you notice how they made him more powerful in this one? By one line of dialogue.
Go ahead.
So in X-Men 2, he's like, I can only teleport to as far as I can see. You know, he's like, I can't even go like to the other side of a wall or anything like that.
I don't know what's on the other side.
I have to be able to see where I'm going. And this one, he says, I have to be able to see where I'm going, or it has to be somewhere where I've been before. Meaning that he could just go back to his house at any given point, whenever the hell he wants, including being stuck in a box going to a cage match. He could just think about his house and then boom, he'd be there.
What are we doing?
What are we doing?
Come on. Get out of there, Nightcrawler.
All right. So my first question, when Beast is telling Cyclops, he's helping him. He's like, oh, I made you these glasses. And he goes, oh, cool. What'd you make them out of? And he's like, oh yeah, I just had some ruby quartz lying around. What the hell is ruby quartz, and why do you have it just lying around? That's not a common mineral to just keep lying. What? Who just happens to have that?
Can't see it at home, but I actually have an unpolished ruby quartz sitting on my desk as a paperweight. It's way more common than you would expect. Could I fashion it into visors? I don't know that I could do that, but Hank's a scientist, Mike. It was science. You know, he just used science to do that.
Okay. The answer is always science. Yeah, why not?
Pretty straightforward one here. What's the age difference between Alex and Scott? So they're brothers. Alex, as first seen in X-Men First Class, which took place 20 years before the events of this film, you got to think is about 17. Let's even bump him down. Let's say he's 16. I mean, he is in full-grown jail, so presumably he's 18. Let's just call him 18. Say he went to jail. He went to solitary confinement. He's a full adult, but he's young. He's 18. That would make him 38 in this movie. Now, Scott is 17. 21 years older than his younger brother.
I don't know, man. I've heard of families like that.
It happens. Like, it does happen. Then that just raises questions about the parents. So you had Alex when you were like 17, 18, and then you had Scott at 40. I mean, again, like, that's really about the only math that works out there. It's just old enough to be within the realm of possibility, but it's still like, that's a pretty big age gap between 2 siblings.
I mean, my dad was 40 when I was born, so.
It definitely happens, but I'm saying
It happens.
21-year age difference between brothers. Like, okay, sure, we're going with that. Yeah,
It's a stretch. It's a stretch.
it's a stretch.
So my next one, Moira at the beginning is working her way through Cairo, and she follows a guy to a hidden passage in a back room that leads underground, and she leaves the hatch open, and that causes sunlight to come in right at the perfect angle and shine on the Apocalypse pyramid, which then activates the pyramid and wakes him up. This has never happened before. There's never been a scenario where light has shined down on the pyramid. What are these Egyptian guys doing over there? They never thought to just open the fucking door.
Great question, Mike. It's an excellent question. And also, then, if we're doing some finger pointing, Moira, those 250 million people are on you, girl. You have the blood of 250 million people on your hands. She's like, never going to get over it. Like, if only I had just closed the hatch and not let the sunlight in.
We need to add to the death and destruction category whose fault this all is.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is definitely all on Moira. That's a great point, Mike. So, as I mentioned, I quite enjoyed the scene of Apocalypse sending the entire nuclear arsenal into outer space. But this is literally the plot of Superman 4. Superman single-handedly decides to rid the world of nuclear weapons, throws them all into the sun, inadvertently creating Nuclear Man. Does this make Apocalypse like kind of a hero? Like, I'm like,
you took it from me. That was my next one.
Yeah, like, bro, you did it. You literally got rid of all of our worst fears. Kind of always lived through this existential dread that at any moment the wrong leader in the world could set off a bomb that just kind of ends like our species on the planet. And you did that. Good job, Apocalypse, I guess.
You took another one from me. Thank you for that.
Sorry, Mike.
No, it's all right. Yeah, did he basically achieve world peace? Are we sure he's not the good guy? So
that's what I'm saying. Like Superman, it was Superman who did this in another Superman, like the best person in the history of comic books. This is his exact plot. Maybe when he was scanning the television for all of human history.
Learning.
Mike, I mean, yet another question for me. What are you doing, dude? You're literally touching a TV screen, and that's how you get to learn about 5,000 years of history. 3000 BC's ancient Egyptians. He's now almost in the 21st century.
He skipped over the Bronze Age.
Yeah, I guess so. You just kind of like blah, 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 blah. Dark Ages, don't need that. Okay.
You got a lot of History Channel, which means there's probably a lot of ancient aliens going on in there.
I only have one more, so why don't you hit us with what you got left?
So my last one, the beginning of the movie, as you mentioned, there's the shot where the guys use the hammers to hit the things and the giant stones roll down and collapse the structure of the pyramid. All right, so ancient Egyptians built self-destruct systems for all of their pyramids, number one. And then number two, Apocalypse then collapses and they fall down a very, very, very long shaft that's like probably 50 stories deep. I don't think I've ever seen, like, I've seen a lot of images of pyramids and drawings of like how they built them and how they're set up from an engineering perspective. There's never a fail-safe escape hatch that goes down 50 stories underground. Why are they doing this?
It's the same place as like the basement of the Alamo in Pee-wee's Big Adventure. It's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
There is no basement in pyramids. You know that, right? Like there's just not going to be any of them, right?
I mean, there's definitely like they build down a bit and they like dug tunnels and stuff, sure, but not like an entire skyscraper underneath a pyramid goes down into the earth. And
Wild.
And then to that, how did that pyramid then, like Moira only goes down like 30 feet.
Yeah.
If he's buried under 50 stories of sand, how did Moira find him 30 feet below ground?
I mean, presumably 5,000 years of erosion, I guess.
Oh, okay, I can see that, yeah.
Guess, but still, point taken. I mean, there's a real engineering flaw in this building that he created. And yeah, not so sure about that. My last one goes back to Jubilee, who we've been talking about a surprising amount on this episode, or I have at least. So she's a student at Professor X's school in the 80s, and then you can see her. I don't think she has actual dialogue, but she is definitely a student in X2 and X-Men. So that means that Jubilee's been in high school for 20 years now? She just she just can't get out of high school?
They talked about how with Days of Future Past, we're creating new time flows and certain people may show up at different times, I guess. I don't know.
Okay.
Time travel shenanigans.
Okay. It's just the result of time travel. All right. Just kind of struck me. I'm like, man, Jubilee. Just study, girl. Quit going to the mall.
She's dumb.
All right, Mike, now it's time to get deep and talk about what this film is really all about. And, I had a lot of thoughts after watching it because powerful film. I hope our audience is taking that from our discussion, if nothing else. But
It moved me, that's for sure.
it's clearly really about the dangers of placing your faith in messiah figures. Singular, charismatic figures who command great power, be it politically, religiously, or culturally, are a great danger to the rest of the world. Like Magneto, they can unilaterally make decisions with the aim of mostly to strengthen their position at the top of a hierarchy. How do we defeat such figures? By banding together like the X-Men. As Charles tells En-Sabah Nur at the end of the film, because he's never actually referred to as Apocalypse, by the way.
Right.
He says to him, "You will never win because you are alone and I am not." Tellingly, by combining all of their powers simultaneously, not only physically, but mentally as well, the X-Men are able to take down this powerful individual who is bent on mass destruction. Like the X-Men, are at our best when we band together and reject autocrats choosing democracy over despotism. That's what this movie is about to me. Any thoughts, Mike?
Mark, that was very well said. While I'm inclined to agree, and I respect your opinion, I'm sad to tell you that you've missed the point. Quite drastically, I might add. X-Men Apocalypse is, in fact, a manifesto on how the boomer generation, who gets so severely confused by technology, social media, and what they see on TV, how they are actively destroying the world at large. What is this based on? Let me tell you, Mark. Firstly, you have the eldest mutant in existence, or as I've come to know him, the boomer mutant, if you will. First thing when he arrives in modern times that he does is he watches television in the 1980s, and he doesn't like what he sees. He's angry, he's bitter, and most relatedly to a boomer, he's confused at what the world has become. Because not only does he see the state of the world in the 1980s, but it can be inferred that when he watches TV, he watches MTV. Boomers have long railed against MTV, the channel, and the generation at large. And I think it's safe to say that they would rather see the world itself be destroyed rather than let a bunch of Devo and Madonna worshipping long haired kids that won't go to Cracker Barrel anymore take control of society. Apocalypse and the boomers at large would rather tear down the world and remake the world in their image to make it great again. In his own words, we will tear down this world and from the ashes build a better one. All because you and I won our MTV.
Wow, Mike. I kind of had this reading about faith, messianic figures, misplaced agenda, despotism, power of democracy, and groups over singular autocrats. But you completely changed my mind. It's clearly about boomers, dude.
That's right.
Clearly. Well said. Well argued. Well argued, my friend.
Thank you.
And now we have reached the final verdict. So this is the part of the show where we render final judgment, much like Apocalypse himself, on these films. Naming them classic, great, good, okay, bad, or terrible. If it's okay with you, Mike, I'll get us started. This is a bad movie. It doesn't quite reach the levels of terrible to me, but Oscar Isaac is horribly miscast, and he doesn't look like an intimidating villain. He looks like a guy in a goofy outfit. The script never bothers to explain his power set, much less his motivation for world domination, or why anyone would even choose to be one of his four horsemen. Character motivations, like why Magneto settled down or why Mystique went into hiding, are never addressed. The young versions of iconic characters like Cyclops and Jean Grey are bland and undefined, and the few clever moments and scenes are blotted out of the sky in the midst of a chaotic, magnetic maelstrom. This is a bad movie, Mike. It's bad.
It was okay. I'm not quite as hard on it as you. I think this is maybe the first time I've gone higher than you have in a rating.
I think it may be.
It's okay. I don't hate it. It didn't make me mad when I was watching it like X3 did, where I'm just like, this is so stupid. This is stupid. Like, I didn't get a lot of that. I could still kind of like appreciate, what probably, like I said, what was written down on paper. I'm like, that's a cool idea. It's just poor execution. There's a lot of that. I give them a little bit of props for at least, attempting and trying to make Apocalypse a character who deserves to have such a large scale spectacle. That's exactly what we got, was large scale spectacle, and it should have worked, but it just kind of didn't, and it's pretty forgettable. So yeah, it's okay.
Interesting. Yeah, I think everyone has their own criteria, right, for what makes something the difference between, let's say, bad and terrible or great and classic. For me, all of what you just said, which I agree with, that's what makes it bad, is that it should have been so much better. I'm so disappointed by the execution that it bumps it down. Whereas like X3, I was like, it's okay. It's not great, but I didn't feel like it was as bad as I had remembered it being, given the time constraints, sticking in any director they could find to make it. It's okay. I don't know. I think it was expectation level might be part of the factors for me. So interesting to hear your take there, though. Well, our final categories, we recommend comic books and films based on our previous viewing. So I'll go ahead and kick us off here as well. And my comic recommendation is a very recent comic called The Age of Revelation in Marvel. It's written by Jed McKay with pencils from Ryan Stegman and Nitho Diaz. This is the big crossover event in the X-Men from 2025. So this is just came out last fall, less than a year ago. And essentially, the plot is that after a virus that turns the human population into mutants begins to spread, Apocalypse's son Revelation, who possesses the power to command all living organisms with his speech alone, slowly takes control of the X-Men. In response, they send Cyclops' consciousness 10 years forward in time, so it's kind of an inverse Days of Future Past situation, where the entire eastern seaboard has now been turned into a new mutant utopia, so long as they follow Revelation's will. Can the few remaining heroes band together under Cyclops' leadership, or will the entire planet fall victim to Revelation's inescapable mind control? Find out in Marvel Comics 2025 crossover, Age of Revelation. It's pretty good. I'm not through the whole thing yet, but I've been enjoying it. It's a cool read. They're kind of post-Krakoa era on the X-Men now. They're kind of moving back away from them creating their own sovereign nation state and more back into society. I think that the idea of someone that can basically do anything he wants to anyone just by speaking a couple words aloud is genuinely terrifying.
It is.
It's kind of cool. It's a cool book. I'm excited to finish it.
Does everyone in Apocalypse's family have biblical names like that, where or names that are references? Is there like an Exodus character, or
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Numbers?
Yeah, there's Deuteronomy is definitely one of those ones.
There you go. That's cool. All right, not bad. Yeah, I've not heard about that one, and I've definitely been interested in new comics recently because I haven't been keeping up for a long time. So I'll check that one out for sure. I decided instead of a comic that I was going to do a video game, because there's a lot of great X-Men video games over the years. There's the absolutely classic X-Men arcade game, but I'm not going to talk about that one. There's like the Wolverine game for PS2 and Xbox 360 that was pretty good in and of itself as well. Instead, I'm going to talk about X-Men Legends 2, The Rise of Apocalypse. And this was made by Raven Software, and they do a lot of like Call of Duties. They actually did Call of Duty 4, which is the first like modern warfare one. That's like one of the best ones ever. And they did Star Wars Jedi Knight, if you know that game. But X-Men Legends 2 is a PlayStation 2, GameCube, Xbox One era story where Apocalypse kidnaps Professor X and Quicksilver for who knows for what reason. I won't spoil it, but it's really interesting kind of gameplay. You actually control 4 different mutants on your team at once, and you can pick from a giant character list of heroes to control and level up. And it's really just a fun little like kind of a beat 'em up thing, but it's really fun. I actually played it the other day just out of curiosity, and I was pretty impressed with how well it aged. So if you can find it, if you have an older generation console to play something like X-Men Legends 2 on, I would recommend it.
Sounds sick, man. I'm all about it. a video game recommendation for the
Yep.
first time. Love to hear it. That's great. Well, why don't you give us your film recommendation now?
All right. Well, we got Oscar Isaac, who we said earlier, he has a giant IMDb list and a pretty impeccable resume for all of our, current modern actors. So a lot of movies to pick from just from him. And the best one that I could think of is from 2014. It's called Ex Machina. And Ex Machina is directed by Alex Garland, who did Annihilation with Natalie Portman. He did Civil War. Done a lot of like pretty trippy sci-fi or post-modern apocalyptic kind of screenplays. And Ex Machina won or was nominated for Best Original Screenplay. Basically, Oscar Isaac and Domhnall Gleeson, and that's it. Besides Alicia Vikander, essentially, the plot is that Oscar Isaac is a tech billionaire who has what he believes he's done is created the world's first truly conscious AI system housed within a female robot. He brings Domhnall Gleeson to his estate so that he can test it and determine if it's truly conscious or not. And it gets really trippy, gets kind of pretty psychological and heady in a lot of ways, but Oscar Isaac is absolutely fantastic in this role. The dance scene alone, my God, that's amazing. Domhnall Gleeson's great. Alicia Vikander's great. It's a very small cast, but they do a lot with it. This is what we talk about when we want more character development, is a movie like this. Highly recommend Ex Machina 2014.
Great film, really good pick, excellent Oscar Isaac performance. As you alluded to, he really does have an incredible IMDb. I thought it was amazing as Leto Atreides in Dune, as Chalamet's father. He's been in all kinds of stuff. I was really close to recommending my favorite of his performances, which is Inside Llewyn Davis, the Coen brothers borderline classic, maybe classic. It's up there.
Underrated classic, I would say.
Underrated classic. Let's go with that. In which he stars with Carey Mulligan, but instead, looking back through his IMDb, I'm going with a different selection in which he co-stars with Carey Mulligan. And that movie is 2011's Drive. This was directed by Nicholas Winding Refn. I believe he's a Danish filmmaker. Has an amazing cast starting at the top with Ryan Gosling at his most charismatic. As I mentioned, Carey Mulligan is also, she appears as his love interest and the wife of the newly released criminal Standard Gabriel, which is played by Oscar Isaac. Pretty small part in this film, but definitely an important part. This was really kind of one of his first breakout roles. Other supporting actors in the film include Bryan Cranston, who's great, future Superhero Cinema Club star Ron Perlman, and Mad Men dream girl Christina Hendricks. But perhaps the best bit of casting, very against type, Albert Brooks plays the heavy in this movie, and he's really good as a villain, as a gangster. He does such a good job. This movie has a tremendous amount of style in its filmmaking. The score is absolutely iconic, headlined by tracks from composer Cliff Martinez, as well as songs by Kavinsky and the Chromatics. Winding Refn won Best Director at Cannes Film Festival for this movie in 2011. But to me, what really stands out is the cinematography, the way that they shoot the interiors of cars, him driving around town. It's endlessly creative. And Mike, wouldn't you know it, Newton Thomas Siegel, the same cinematographer who worked on all of Bryan Singer's X-Men films, was also the cinematographer on this. So there's a couple different reference points for X-Men fans. Amazing job with the cinematography in this film. Just a really great movie. If you've never seen it, I could not highly recommend it enough. Check out 2011's Drive with Ryan Gosling and Oscar Isaac.
You didn't talk enough about the soundtrack. You underrated that. The soundtrack is fucking phenomenal in that movie.
Yeah, it's like one of the most iconic, I would say, of the last 15 or 20 years. I mean, it's like kind of almost single-handedly brought back like synth pop and resurrected that kind of chilly 80s vibe.
Yes, yeah, exactly. You put that on while you're driving around town like Friday night or something, just going through the city. That's perfect soundtrack for that kind of night.
Absolutely. Yeah, really great film. Beautifully shot by Newton Thomas Siegel. Just phenomenal cinematography. Like I said, Mike, I'm holding out hopes. He's also working on Avengers Doomsday, so hopefully he can bring some of that style to that film. Well, with that, we have reached the end of another episode of Superhero Cinema Club. This was fun? Question mark. I mean, the
course.
episode was fun. The movie itself, I just don't like blaspheming Oscar Isaac. I love him. I think he's so good. And this is also my issue with Frankenstein, which another film where I was like, what are you doing, bro? Like, how are you the worst part of this movie? I thought he was.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, I really didn't like him in Frankenstein either. And I thought he was miscast in that film as well. So when it's good, it's great. But when it's bad, it's real bad with Oscar Isaac. His batting average is really high. I don't want to sound like I'm slagging on the guy.
It's like whatever he's in that's bad is like not his fault, I think.
This one, I wouldn't put it on him. It was just miscast. But yeah. Well, next up, we are going to be diving into the very last X-Men movie before finishing our season with the New Mutants, the spin-off film. Final X-Men movie, Mike, 2019's Dark Phoenix, a movie I never actually watched this, so I'm excited to finally check it out. I have not heard great things, but perhaps, much like Batman and Robin, the low expectations will carry it a little higher than what I thought. I'm excited to finally check it out. I hope you guys are excited also to watch this and come back again for our next episode of Superhero Cinema Club. See you next week. Peace.
Superhero Cinema Club is hosted by Mark Schiff and me, Mike Carnes. Produced by Mark Schiff. Editing by Mike Carnes. Original music provided by Chris Carnes. Find him on Spotify. Be sure to follow us on social media. You can find us at Superhero Cinema Club, and don't forget to like and subscribe and leave a review. Join us next time as we dive into another epic adventure from the world of superhero cinema.